Hello, Slicey Dicers. This is Brian with another Battle to the Death for you. Today, we have two pretty interesting knives. The Hogue RSK Mk1-G2 designed by Doug Ritter, and the Massdrop Perpetua designed by TJ Schwartz and made by Millet Knives. Why am I comparing these two? Well, a lot of reasons. They're both kind of not limited edition, but knives that take a bit of effort to get a hold of. This is a KnifeWorks exclusive. I don't know how I got mine so early. Whenever I show this, people are like, how do you already have one? I'm still waiting on one. I don't know. I bought it from somebody else who got theirs really early, I guess. So that's how I got it. I know that I actually just talked to Hogue today, which is December 20th, and they said that they just delivered some to KnifeWorks. So hopefully a lot of them. So hopefully you guys who have pre-orders for this will be getting it very, very soon. The Massdrop Perpetua, I did speak to Millet, and they are making more of them. I wasn't sure if that was going to happen or not, but they are definitely going to make more of them. I wouldn't do a comparison between the knife with a knife that you can't get. I don't like doing that to you guys. So, yes, they're going to be making more of them, and it looks like it's going to be one of those Massdrop knives that they just keep in stock, which I'm very glad that Massdrop's doing that because some of their stuff is very, very cool. It looks like this is going to be one of them. Maybe some colors. I don't know any other details about it. But also, the reason why I wanted to compare them is they're both fairly heavy use knives, intended to be, and they both have a lock system that looks a bit familiar. Benchmade's patent on the axis lock has passed, so companies are free to use this kind of Omega spring sliding lock. I think that's great, and I think arguably both of these companies do just as good, if not better, job than Benchmade does with that lock. So Hogue calls theirs the Able lock. Massdrop doesn't even try to hide it because they don't have to. They say it's the McHenry and Williams lock that Benchmade has used for years, and blah, 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 blah. So pretty open about it. But they're both Omega spring, very similar to what Benchmade does, kind of locks. And I like that. Also, prices aren't that far off. You're looking at, this was $110 in the first one from Massdrop, but the subsequent ones they say are going to be $120, and you're looking at $153 for the Hogue, so fairly close in price. The Hogue's a little bit bigger, but not dramatically so, especially when you get to some of the dimensions that we will get up to shortly. How does this thing work? We have 7 categories: design and aesthetics, quality, blade, ergonomics, carry, deployment, and value. And then everybody gets a point for each category they win, and at the end we add them all up and we get a score. But let's do some stats first before we get too much farther. We will start out with the Perpetua. You have an overall length of 7.65 inches, a blade length of 3¼ inches. You have a blade thickness of 0.12 and a handle thickness of dead on 0.5, half an inch. Overall weight is 4.3 ounces, so yeah, not too bad. It is heavier than I expected it to be from the size, but it's got very solid liners and stuff, so it's built to do some stuff, so I kind of get that. Next up, we have the Ritter. We have a blade length of 3.44 inches, overall length of 8.15 inches, weight almost the same, 4.5 ounces, a little bit heavier, but it is a bigger knife. And you have a blade thickness of, again, about 0.12 inches, and handle thickness quite a bit thicker at 0.62, but it doesn't feel that thick. We'll talk more about that later. Now, let's get on to the scoreable categories. First up is design and aesthetics. I'm going to have to veer off here a little bit because every time I show either of these knives, especially the Hogue, someone says, oh, that just looks like a Griptilian. It's just a Griptilian copy and blah, blah, blah. First of all, with the Hogue RSK, it's Doug Ritter's design. Benchmade made it. They chose to stop. He went to Hogue. They make it. The blade, yes, is pretty much identical to what the old Ritter Griptilian was that Benchmade made. The handle, while it looks kind of like it isn't. Once you get it in the hand, it feels different. It's a little longer. It's a little bigger. If you watch the review of this, you'll see I compared it to a regular Griptilian. You'll see it's a little bigger. And you know what? It was apparently his design because Benchmade ain't sued nobody. So he must have been free to do with it what he wanted, and he chose to have Hogue make it. They chose not to make it. He chose to find somebody else. So don't see what the problem is there. As far as saying that the Perpetua looks like a Griptilian, I don't know what the hell you guys are talking about. Yeah, it's got a sheep's foot. They do make a sheep's foot grip. Yes, the blade shape is somewhat similar, but it's a sheep's foot. That's what they look like. I don't know what you want me to tell you that. And the handle, no, I don't see it at all. It's a very blocky handle design. I don't see it at all. So as far as that one goes, you're crazy. And as far as this one goes, compared to a grip, apparently it's fine. But now that I've gone through that rant, what do I think? Which one I think is the best design and aesthetics? Man, I don't know. I'm going to call it a tie. I prefer slightly the look of the Hogue, but I know some people don't like that starburst pattern, and I know that could be kind of a hit or miss thing. And this is very plain looking, but I think it looks great, but it is kind of plain looking for some people. So each has their benefits. Each one has their downsides. I'm just going to call it a tie. I don't really know. Quality wise, this one was hard too, because I know that some people did have some problems with the first run of these. I'm sure that Millet's going to have that figured out for the next one. And so I don't really want to penalize them too hard for that, but I do know they did have some issues. If I compared the two examples that I have purely just on the two examples that I have, I would probably give the one to the Millet, because mine came out perfect to the Millet built Massdrop knife. It's so hard to figure out what name to call these Massdrop knives. To the Perpetua, we'll just go with that. I'd probably give this slight one to the Perpetua, only because I did have one slight quality issue with the Hogue, just that the blade is a little bit off center. They immediately offered for me to send it back and get it fixed, and I said it's not worth it. It's fine. I couldn't adjust it out with the pivot screw. I'm pretty sure I could adjust it out if I tore it apart and polished a washer or something. But I don't know if any of you guys have torn apart these Omega. I guess what's the politically correct term to call these now that the Axis lock name is gone? The Omega spring locks, I guess is what I'll call them. If you've ever torn one of these apart, it's a pain in the ass, and it's not off enough to bother me to make me want to do that. The action's great. Don't feel the need to do it. So yes, if I go over these two examples, I would say that this particular Massdrop knife was a little bit better quality than this particular RSK that I got. But I've heard enough complaints about the Perpetua that I'm just going to call it a tie. I'm sure that I just got a slightly off one of the very first ones of this RSK, and I'm sure that Millet is going to fix all this stuff in the next run. So I'm just going to call it a tie. I can't really pick one there. Blade, I could pick a winner. I know I started off with two ties, but Blade, I did pick a winner. This is Nitro V steel, which is kind of unique. You don't see that very often. I will say that on the Massdrop site, for some reason, they say it's hardened to 61 or they say it's hardened to 57 to 59 Rockwell, which kind of freaks some people out, but it isn't. I spoke to Millet, it's 61, 62, and that's what it performs like. It definitely performs more like that. It's an interesting steel, and it holds an edge pretty well. I've been very, very happy with it. Does not hold an edge as good as the mother of all M390. Obviously, this holds an edge very well, and Hogue seems to have done a very good job with M390. I think this is the first M390 knife they've made. I'm not sure. I think they work mostly in 154 CM or CPM 154. I can't remember, but yeah, I don't remember seeing another Hogue in M390, so somebody correct me if I'm wrong down below. But they did a good job with it. Both about the same thickness behind the edge. You do have a hollow grind on this. They're both about 20, 21 thousandths behind the edge, by the way. You do have a hollow grind on the Perpetua, so it does, initial cuts start out better, but I think for slicing, this is just a little bit better. That really high flat grind, you got the same blade thickness, blade stock thickness, pretty much. And I just find this to slice a little bit better. Tips are about the same. So yeah, going to give the win to the Ritter, to the Hogue. But I will say another reason why I'm giving the win to that, not just on performance, also, I did have a slight problem with this blade, and I didn't put this in the quality thing because I think this was just just a finish choice. I don't think it was a quality issue, but the finish they chose to put on this blade, I did get a bit of corrosion on it, which I was surprised, and some people had complained about that. I thought Nitro V wasn't supposed to do that, but the finish they chose, it does make it a bit corrosion prone. It's a great looking finish, and the corrosion I got was minuscule. It came off with a toothbrush. I just scrubbed it with a toothbrush, and I think I just used rubbing alcohol, or it wasn't even like a real compound that should take rust off, and it just came right off. And then I coated it with this EDCI stuff to make sure it doesn't come back, and it hasn't, and it's been fine. By the way, if you're a knife nerd, you got to get this stuff. If you have anything that you are remotely worried about corrosion on, not even knives, it works on everything, anything metal. But I had that little issue with it, so that's another part of the reason why I'm giving the win on the blade to the Hogue. But I think even if I didn't have that issue, I'd probably still give the win to the Hogue on the blade. Ergonomics. The Perpetua is good. It's very comfortable in the hand. I do like it. There's nothing objectionable. The pocket clip was a bit objectionable initially. This is the upgraded pocket clip that you can buy from Millet for $20. I do not know if that's going to be on the new ones. I have no information about that. But the previous clip was much thinner stock. Some people didn't like that. Said it bent on them. I never had that problem. But this ramp did come up a bit higher. I bent it down, which was pretty shockingly easy to do, by the way. But I bent it down to, ironically, when I got this new clip, the way I bent mine was identical to what the new one is. So great minds think alike, I guess. But the ramp is a bit less. I don't have that hot spot anymore. The jimping on here is a bit extreme, but it doesn't really bother me. But, there's nothing particularly amazing about the ergonomics on this, and nothing particularly bad. Where the RSK is just really nice. It's really nice. I think maybe there's a bit too much jimping here, but I get it. Very grippy, just easy to carry. No hot spots from that clip at all, in my hands anyway. Just a very, very comfortable knife to carry. Super comfortable. So got to give the win in ergonomics to the RSK. All right, carry. Flip these over. Again, a new clip on this, so but even from the old clip, it wouldn't have mattered. It doesn't carry particularly deep, which is fine. I do really kind of wish that they would make a loop over clip for this. We'll see if that ever happens. This has a nice deep carry pocket clip. Weights are close enough to not matter. I will say, even though this has a thicker handle in the pocket, it doesn't, and it is a bit bigger knife, it doesn't feel like it in the pocket. It feels the same size. It really does. As far as getting my hand in and out of the pocket and all that stuff, every quantifiable thing, this is a bigger knife, but it doesn't feel like it. And it's got that nice deep carry clip, so going to give it to the RSK again for the carry. Now, deployment. We're almost done here. Deployment. Both, as I said, I think I said up front, are arguably better than quote-unquote real Benchmades. Not all of them, but some of them. Both have the same quality that I like, one a bit more than the other. The only thing I've ever not liked about Benchmades, and do I have my 940 sitting out here? Oh, yeah, I do. The one thing that I sometimes don't like about Benchmades, they're so much fun to play with, they're very flippy, but they bounce off like that all the time, and that's fine if you catch it right, but if you kind of release it right as it hits. But sometimes it's annoying when it goes dang, off there, because they're just they just drop so free. Both of these have kind of dialed that back a bit, and I do really like it. Something to do with the washers they use or whatever is they don't bounce like that. This bounces a little bit, but not much, and I like that. Now, the Perpetua, though, does that even better. It sucks in much better. It's much easier to make this not bounce than a real. If you just don't want it to bounce, it's much easier to pull that off. That little maneuver off with the Perpetua. The Hogue is still better than most Benchmates, but still just a little bit easier on this. They both have great, very smooth actions. This does feel a bit more that oil on glass kind of, feel. So I'm going to give the win, slight win. They're both very similar, but slight win to the Perpetua in that category. Value. Yeah, this one was tough too. 120 versus 153. It's not an insignificant amount of money, but it's not a huge difference. Millet knife construction versus Hogue. They're both pretty prestigious companies. Millet maybe is a bit more cachet to it, because they make a lot of really expensive stuff too. Not that Hogue doesn't, but Hogue was primarily they still are primarily making grips for guns and stuff. Knives are still fairly new to them. I think I'm very impressed with everything I've seen from them so far, but they still don't quite have that cachet that having a millet knife is. But it was made by marketed by Massdrop, so this is T.J. Schwartz versus Doug Ritter, both very prestigious designers. I'm gonna give a slight edge though to the Perpetua just because it's 120. I got mine for 110. The initial run was 110, and so mine's an even better value. But I think I'm gonna give a slight win on the value to the Perpetua. So where does that leave us? That leaves us with 2 ties and a 3-2 win for the Hogue RSK Mk1-G2. It sounds like a fighter in World War II or something like that. But a very cool knife, designed by a very cool guy. If you don't know who Doug Ritter is, he does knife right stuff. We all owe a lot to this guy. He's gotten a lot of laws changed. If you're not a member of kniferights.org, you should be. I definitely am. If you're an NRA guy, it's kind of like the NRA but for knives, and he really sticks up for us, does great work. So there's that about it too that I like. But also I just really like this. It's just really comfortable in the hand. I've never had a griptilian that I really fell in love with, and I have fallen in love with this. I like it. So you can call it a copy if you want, but whatever changes they made, I like this better. So great knife. Really, really like it. But I also like this too. I have no intention of getting rid of either one of them. Unless when the new ones, these come out, there's a new color that strikes me or something, then maybe I'll swap out. But very nice knife. Both of these are very nice knives. Both are very cool. Both have some pretty cool factors to them. But overall, I just got to say, the RSK gets the win here. So hope you guys have enjoyed this. I've been Brian. Have a good one.